Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com, and we're actually right in the middle of a rebuild on our 2005 Honda CRF450-R. And in this video, we're going to address what they call the right crankcase cover. And under that cover, we're going to be working with the Kickstarter mechanism as well as the water pump. Now, the real trick is this water pump's in a little bit of trouble. So I've already got the parts laid out on the table as to what I'm going to replace. So that's basically the seals, the bearing, and then this washer, and more importantly, the actual spindle. So now that I've got everything assembled, let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. So let's start by getting our Kickstarter assembly put together. In the order of operations, you're going to have a washer here, and then there's going to be a collar inside of the gear. Make sure these teeth are facing in. Then you've got another washer on that side. Now here's where you need to pay attention. This little ratchet gear has a dot on it, and that needs to match up with the dot on the shaft itself. So those 2 points need to be together. Now, take our spring. Before we set this in, let's put a little bit of assembly lube back in the base right here. And when we want the stop arm to go against that bar right here, that's where it needs to end up. Okay. Now let's finish up the rest of it. So basically what we have is this collar, and we need to line it up with that hole there so we can get our spring into that hole. And then we're going to bring the spring around and put it into this part of the case. Now, get that spring to go over the collar. There we go. And this is what it looks like when you've actually got it finished. Now the only other part is this idler gear, and it has a collar that goes in from the back side. There it is. Free wheels in one direction. When you kick it, it's going to engage those teeth and kick it over. Well, now that we've got the Kickstarter in place, let's address those seals inside the right crankcase cover. And the main reason this caught my attention almost immediately, I mean, you can see what the new one looks like, the spindle, compared to what the existing one looks like. And even with new seals, that is a recipe for disaster. So we're replacing everything, because putting this much effort into this engine, I don't want the oil and the water mixing together, and this is where that would happen. So we're going to attack it right now. That way we know it will not be an issue. All right, there's a couple of different ways we can remove the bearing and the seals. They actually make a blind bearing puller to where you can extract it. It's kind of an impact scenario. But what I'm going to do is just pry out the bearings from the other side actually with a screwdriver or a drift, and then knock out the bearing and then push in the new one. There we go. There's one. Notice the orientation. Now, let's pop it from the other direction. We'll just go for the bearing first, because we are not reusing this one. There we go. Notice the orientation. It has the letters out. Now we can get our oil seal, which is this guy right there, and it's positioned like this. So in other words, these two seals are more or less back to back. Nothing to it. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time getting that cleaned up. All right, now we're just going to pop them back in the reverse order. And we should be able to work this down just with our drift, and it'll bottom out. Really, it does not take much pressure to do this. Just be careful and don't go past it and damage that edge. Now, go ahead and get in our new bearing. Almost push it in by hand, but not quite. What we're going to do is just tap around the edge of it. And I believe we are there. That feels so much better than that other one. Huge difference. Now, if this one wasn't leaking, I would be in shock. But when we get through with it, it's going to be good to go. And that got it started, but to finish it off, to get it to bottom out, we're going to use 15 millimeter. That reaches out to the edge while not damaging the center. All right, that feels like it. Now, they already have a little bit of grease in there, but we're just going to add in a little bit more to both seals. Now let's turn our attention to the Kickstarter shaft seal, which goes in the right side crankcase cover. Say that 3 times real fast. Now, put a little assembly lube on the water pump shaft. Then we're going to bring it up through our new bearing and both of our seals, just like that. Now, don't forget this washer. So that is actually part of the sealing process. And now we can get our impeller in place. And now we need to torque that to 9 foot-pounds. The way we're going to do that is with a 14 millimeter wrench on this side, and then a 10 millimeter socket on the other. Ready? There we go. Just for kicks. All right, now, another important thing before we bring the case over. There's actually 2 of these little collars that they use for water to pass through. There's one identical that sits up here, but then there's one on the side. But the difference is the one on the side has an associated O-ring, so make sure that you get that in there. So we're getting ready to install our forged clutch basket from Wiseco, but we do have to get a couple of pieces off of the OEM piece and transfer them over to the Wiseco unit. And those pieces being mainly this drive gear or the starter gear on the outside. Well, now that we've got our gear attached to the clutch basket, so let's go ahead and get our rear collar and needle bearing and our basket in place. Then we can go ahead and put on that right cover. And I realized that we were showing you this a little bit out of sequence. So why don't you check the link in the description below and reference the video that shows you how to put that top end together. Next, let's go around our case and make sure that we don't have any oil on our surface. Make sure it's clean. And we've got one dowel there, and our other dowel decided it would stay in the outer case. So let me get that pulled out, get it installed, and then that'll hold our gasket in place. And then install that outer cover. And then when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you align this with the slot inside of that gear. Just give it a little tap at that dowel and it should seat right down. Make sure that you're engaged, and it is. That's it. Now, we had already laid out our bolts in the same order that they need to go back in, starting right here, which has this little guide. I usually get them all started Then I'll come back around, get them seated, and then we're going to torque them down. I think that's everybody. And we're going to take these to 7 foot-pounds. Okay, next let's go ahead and get our housing back on. Don't forget your O-ring and this dowel. And at the very bottom, this particular bolt has one of those copper crush washers. Make sure it's in place or you're going to have a leak. We'll take those to 7 foot-pounds as well. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Listen, if you need any parts or tools for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.